So I think it's time to go on show. So hey everybody, let me introduce again. Uh, Today we are going to discuss about external services, of course, the basic ones. And we have a special guest, Shruti Sridharan. And this meeting we are recording. Any question, anything you have, please feel free to post and we will discuss on it. I will go on. So can someone confirm if you are able to hear and you are able to see my screen?
Yes, I'm able to hear.
Yeah, yes.
Awesome.
Yes,
So
we
are,
can.
are
Yes, Amitabh, you are able to hear.
so are you guys excited?
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
Yeah,
yeah,
obviously, of
Yeah.
course.
Awesome, awesome.
yeah.
So everybody, who am I? Most of you already know. Oops. So that's Amit Chaudhary for you. He is a
Mhm.
Salesforce MVP, active blogger. You can follow him in his website, amitsalesforce.blogspot.com.in. And he's also the co-organizer of Farmington Hills Salesforce Developer Group Meet. Unfortunately, today Amit was not able to join this meeting, so I am his proxy, and my name is Jitendra Jha. So that's all about introduction. I hope I can live up to the expectation of Amit, and I will hand over to a special guest, Shruti Sridharan, and I would like her to introduce herself, and we will start from there. So Shruti, stage is all yours. You can share your screen.
Hi everyone, this
Hello.
is Shruti here.
Hello, Shruti.
Yes, so let me just share my screen.
Awesome. So I will add some points till the Shruti sharing her screen. So Shruti is a video speaker. If you are on social network, you might have seen a lot of tweets from her, a lot of tweets from others, and really I love the blog by Shruti. That's a really I will say a unique blog. You will not find any duplicate articles there, and that's salesforcechronicle.com. So I really follow that blog. So thank you,
Thank
Shruti,
you.
for being with us. I hope it is going to be awesome session where everybody will learn.
All right. Okay, so good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. Thank you for joining my session. Let me tell something about myself. I hail from Kerala, and I have been a Salesforce developer for 2 years now. And I speak at different events like Jaipur DevFest, Dreamforce, different UGs, DUGs, etc. And I also blog at salesforcechronicle.com. All right, so that's the agenda for today. We will look at what problem are we solving. Then we will explore how we can solve it. I'll then introduce you all to external services and explain how it works. And finally, we will look at a use case and wrap it up. So yes, trust me, we can make this possible in the next 30 minutes. You can start doing API integrations without any code. So what problem are we solving? I'm pretty sure most of you on this webinar might have done an API integration. I guess I will not have to explain the hassles involved in it. There is so much of repetitive code. Last but not the least, it's an admin's nightmare. Even the new process builder was not able to solve this very challenge. So there you go, the hassles of API integrations. You have to set up custom metadata to store endpoints, handle authentication, write a lot of code, and what else? the tedious unit test. So how can we solve it? We have to eliminate all of these. We need Salesforce to manage the endpoints for us. We need Salesforce to manage the authentication for us. And we don't want to write Apex anymore, at least the admins. And last but not the least, it should be reusable. We should be able to use them in flows, processes, etc. Well, I might have a solution for you. So let's welcome external services. With external services, you don't have to write a single line of code to do API integrations. Salesforce will manage the endpoints and authentication for us. And you can use them anywhere, flows, processes, and it's just plug and play. So how does it work? Trust me, it's pretty easy. Firstly, write a Swagger schema for your API. Secondly, create a named credential. Thirdly, import the Swagger schema using the external services wizard. And fourthly, choose the named credential and hit save. So don't worry about these steps because I'll be explaining later in the webinar how you can achieve them. And that's it. So isn't that easy, folks? All right, so let me show you the currency converter that we are going to create. Let's have a sneak peek of what we are going to build. So as you can see, this is an opportunity record, and we have a flow over here, and we have the opportunity amount over here. And
Hey,
we have a custom.
hey Shruti, so it seems your screen is not visible to us. That opportunity screen you're talking about?
Oh yes, I was sharing my screen.
Can't
It's
see
not
anything.
visible.
Yeah,
No,
your PowerPoint presentation is, we are able to see your PowerPoint presentation.
it's yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What about now?
Yeah, now we can see.
You can see.
Awesome.
All
Now
right.
it's
So yes, so this is the opportunity record, and we have the field amount field with the opportunity amount, and we have a custom field called converted amount over here, and we have this flow running over here called opportunity amount converter, which has two drop down lists: the from currency and the to currency. So we can specify the from currency here, and we can specify the to currency, and click on next. And here we get a confirmation asking if you are ready to convert. And now I'm clicking yes. So here is the converted amount, and on clicking finish, it'll update the converted amount custom field in the opportunity. So here is the updated amount. So now I'll show you how we can build this later in the presentation. So let me continue with the PPT. So hang on, actually there are a few points to note. So now this is a beta, which means you have to consider that it might or might not have limitations. Now, these are the limitations that I have felt over my past experience. Firstly, external services does not support APIs that has JSON response. This is exactly why I chose Currency Exchange API, since it returns a text. I've also found that the external services doesn't work if your API doesn't have any inputs. So currency converter.
Hey,
Now
Shruti.
is the fun. Yeah,
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. So
no
when you're
problem.
saying API cannot have any input, so you're saying that read-only APIs basically those are not supported, right?
It's not read-only API. We will be making a get call.
Exactly. So you're saying that get call is not supported?
No, get call is supported.
Okay.
So Shruti,
So
Shruti, you mean to say the support the service only support only get call, but not in Salesforce you will edit something and it won't again call back the same service and update the external service, right?
Actually, this currency exchange API, it supports only get calls.
Okay,
okay, we got
So
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
understood. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah.
all right. So we are going to build a currency converter which converts opportunity amount to another currency, and we are going to do this with absolutely no code, and instead with just visual workflow and external services. So now let's see how we can build this. So is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, please.
So this is the currency exchange API that I'm using, and it's a free API for current foreign exchange rates, which are published by different providers like Fixer, Currency Layer, Currency Converter API. And we'll be using Fixer. So let's see how we can make calls. So this is the endpoint, and we have three main query string parameters, and the one of the parameters is the provider. So provider in our case it's Fixer. It's usually the currency exchange rates provider, and then we have the other parameters called FR, which is the from currency or the source currency from which we are converting, and then we have another parameter called TO2, that is the target currency to which we are converting. Then this API, currency exchange API, supports two formats, that is text and JSON. So the response is written either in text or in JSON, and we can specify what type of response we require. So that is done in a different parameter called format, in which we can specify if we want the text or the JSON response. And by default, if we do not specify the format parameter, then it returns text. So let's try out. So this is the endpoint, and here our provider is Fixer for now, and FR, that is from, is the USD, and 2 is INR. So let me click this. Okay, there's some, okay. All right, so we got the response here. So this is the response. And another thing that we have to notice, currency exchange API returns the response in text format. So we will have to convert this into number format so that we can do calculations with this. So don't worry about that. I'll be showing in the flow how we can convert this into the number format. All right. So now let's go to the Salesforce org where we are going to create the flow. So the first thing that we'll have to do is create the custom field in the opportunity record to store the converted amount. So I go to the object manager and I take my opportunity object, and now I go ahead and create a new field which is of number format, and I'm giving it the name currency exchange, sorry, currency converted amount. And the length will be 16, and I'm giving it a 2 decimal places, and I'm clicking next. Okay, so I already have the field over here. So I already have the converted amount field over here, um, which will be having the converted amount. Okay, so the next thing that we'll have to create after creating the custom field in the opportunity to hold the converted amount is to create the named credential. So let me now create a named credential. I click on new named credential, and I'm giving it the name currency exchange. And so named credential is something that defines the authentication of our API endpoint to which we are making the call. So in our case, the currency exchange API does not require any authentication. So we do not have any authentication over here. And this supports 3 types of authentication. That is, one is anonymous, then the next is with username and password, and the third one is OAuth. So since our case, we do not require any authentication, the identity type will be anonymous, and authentication protocol will be no authentication. And here in the URL, it will be host and with the protocol. So this is the endpoint. So we have the protocol and this is the host. So let me use it in the URL and hit save. So we have created the named credential. Now the next thing that we have to do is create the integration. That is, register the external service. So now I go to integration section and I click here to register for a new external service, and I'm hitting next, and I am naming it as currency exchange. And here we can give the schema either via a URL path, or we can provide the schema here. So this is the schema for the currency exchange API. So at first, we have the info node over here. So info node is something that contains the information about the API. So it has the description and the title. Then we have the host node. So this is the domain or the host of the API that needs to be integrated. Then we have the schemes node. This is the protocol that is supported by the API. And it's actually an array of values, and it could be HTTP or HTTPS or even both. Then we have the paths node. So paths node define the different paths or routes to the API. So this is the route or the API endpoint in our case. And then we have the get node, and it's the type of the verb. Then we have the producers node, and it's actually the return type of the API endpoint. And it could be text bar plain or application bar JSON, anything. Then we have the parameters node, and it's the parameters, different parameters that our endpoint supports. So in our case, we had 3 parameters. One is provider, then the next is FR, and then 2. So the provider, it's the currency exchange rate providers like Fixer, Currency Layer, etc. And in our case, it was Fixer. And the FR parameter is the source currency, that is the currency from which we are converting. And the 2 parameter is the target currency, the currency format to which we want to convert the amount. And then we have the responses node, and it defines the responses, and the type is the type of response that it returns, which in our case is a string. All right, so this is the Swagger schema or the OpenAPI specification. Usually most of the APIs will be having the Swagger schema by default, but there are some APIs that do not have. And the currency exchange API that we are using does not have the Swagger schema. Hence, we had to create this on our own. So this is the Swagger schema, and I'm pasting it here, and finally hitting save. And here now I have to choose a named credential for the currency exchange, and I'm choosing the named credential that we had just created for currency exchange. And I'm finally saving it. So now you can see that a new Apex action has been created that we can use in our flow. So we have the input parameters, the provider, FR2, and the output parameters, that is the get output, which we receive it in a string. So behind the scenes, actually Salesforce creates the Apex classes for this to make the API calls. But it doesn't like reveal it to the end users, and we end users cannot access them. And hence we do not have to write the unit test classes for this. So now since it has a new Apex action has been created, we can access them in our flow. And I'm finally saving the external service. So we have finished creating a new external service. Now the next thing is to use them in the flow. So now I go to the flows, and let me create a new flow. So what I'm going to do in the flow is, like I had shown in the demo before, I will have a screen with two drop-down lists to collect the from currency and to currency from the users. And then I'll display a confirmation and ask for the confirmation. And finally, I'll be updating the opportunity based on the confirmation. So for that, let me drag in a screen element. And let me name it as get inputs. And I'm adding a drop-down list. And this will be to collect the from currency. I'm creating a new choice called USD. And the stored value will also be USD. And the fixer.io supports different currency formats. But for the time being, I'm just using 2.3 for the presentation. You can go to their docs, fixer.io's docs, and see what all currency formats it supports. So since now I'm just having one choice over here, let me select it as a default choice. And now let me add another drop-down list to collect the to currency from the users. And now let me create choices for this, which will be EUR, and the stored value will also be EUR. Let me create one more choice, INR, and the stored value will also be INR. Okay, so I have created a screen to accept the from currency and to currency from the users. So the next thing is, if you look down here, a new Apex action has been created since we had registered for a new external service. And this is the get service that has been created. And now I'm using this to make the API call to get the currency rates. And so I'm naming this as get currency rates. And here we have two sections, input and output. So the input section is where we specify the query string parameters that are required to make the API call. So in our case, we had three parameters, that is FR, then the provider, and to. So now let me define FR, that is the from currency, and I'm giving it the from currency screen choice. That is the value in the from currency dropdown. Then now let me specify the to currency also in the same way, the to currency dropdown list value. And now the third parameter, that is provider, which in our case is fixer. So I am giving the value fixer over here. And now let me collect the output in a variable. So we have the get output, which the endpoint returns to us. And now I'm creating a new variable of text format called response to collect the response. So I had told before that the currency exchange API returns the response in a string format. And we will need to convert it into number format if we need to do calculations with it. So for that, let me create a new formula called rate, which is of data type number with scale 2. and I'm using the value function to convert the text response into a number format so that I can use it to do calculations. Hence, I had created the formula. Now, the next thing is we have to ask for the confirmation from the user if they are ready to convert. So for that, again, I'm using a screen. Get confirmation, and let me display the current currency rates also in this display rates, and let me put a message. The value of one, now it's the from currency that I'm selecting, is now the rate formula, and then the to currency. And let me apply some styling to it. Let me increase the font size, and I'll make this bold. The values, and I'll change the font also of the rate. All right, so the next thing is now I have to collect the confirmation from the user. So for that, I'm using the radio buttons, which would ask for a message, are you ready? Also, I'll make this required, and I'm creating new choices. Yes, I am ready, which will have the stored value as yes. Also, one more choice. No, take me back, which will have the stored value as no. So now we have successfully created a field, a screen to accept the uh, confirmation message from the users. So now the next thing is to make the decision based on the selected value. So I'm naming it as get confirmation values, and the outcome will be yes. So for that, I'm using the drop down, are you ready, equals to the choices, yes, I'm ready. And also I will have a default outcome, no, which would take me back to the starting of the flow. All right. So if the person is ready, then we will have to convert the opportunity amount and store it in the converted amount custom field of the opportunity record. So for that, we will have to query for the opportunity, which had invoked the flow. So for querying, I'm using fast lookup, and I'm naming it as fetch opportunity, and the lookup will be opportunity record, and I'm also giving a condition, that is the ID should be equal to, I'm creating a new variable called record ID, whose input output type will be input and output. So record ID is a variable which would receive the ID of the opportunity record which had invoked the flow. And another thing that we have to note here is the name of this variable, which will be holding the ID of the opportunity record, should be named exactly in this manner. And I will show you later why it should be exactly in this manner. It's because only if we name it in exactly this manner, the ID of the opportunity record is got into this variable. And now I am creating a new SObject variable called OPP of type opportunity, and I would require the amount field of the amount value of the opportunity record so that I can perform calculations and display the converted amount and store it. So all that I require from the opportunity record is the amount stored in the opportunity. So I'm using the amount. Okay, so that's it. Now the next thing is we will have to assign this converted amount into the custom field that we had created in the opportunity record called converted amount. So before that, let me create a new formula to calculate the converted amount, and I'm naming this as converted amount, which will be of data type number with scale 2, and I'm doing rate into the opportunity amount. So this way we can get the converted amount. So the current rate of the currency and the value in the opportunity amount. So now let me use the assignment to assign it into the custom field in the opportunity record. And I'm naming it as assign converted amount. And it should be the custom field that we had created in the opportunity object, that is the converted amount field, and equals the new formula which we had just now created to calculate the converted amount. So this will do the assignment, and once the assignment has been done, the next step is to update the opportunity record. So for that, I take fast update to update my opportunity record, and I name it as update OPP, and it will be the same opportunity as object variable. So this way we can update the opportunity with the converted amount value. And now I'm also putting a screen at the end um, display converted amount. So this screen at the end will display us the converted amount. the converted amount is and I'm using the formula that had calculated the converted amount. Let me give some styling to it. Increase the font size. And also click finish to update the opportunity. So this is the converted amount that I'm making it bold. Okay. All right. And I'm naming it as display finish message. So that was the last screen of our flow. Now let me connect these elements. And the screen should be connected to the decision. And if it is a yes decision, then it should update the opportunity. And if it's a no, then it should take back to the beginning of the flow. And also I'm setting this screen as a start element. So we have finished building the flow. Now let's go ahead and save it. In the name opportunity amount converter. Okay. So now we'll be displaying this flow in the opportunity record lightning page. So for that, this flow should be available in the lightning page. And a flow will only be available in the lightning page if we activate it. So now let me go ahead and activate my flow so that I can use it. All right, so I have activated my flow. Now let me go to the opportunity record lightning page. So that I can insert this flow component. So this is the page, and here I have my flow component, which I'm dragging and putting it in this section. And this is the flow that I had created. And this is the record ID. So it passes the ID of the opportunity record in this variable. So that's why I had to name the variable which collects the opportunity record ID in the same manner. And we have to check this checkbox also. So that's it. And now we can go ahead and save it. And okay, it should be saved. Now let's go to an opportunity record page and test the flow. So this is an opportunity record, and the details section, here we have the amount, and here we have the converted amount field also. And this is the flow that we had inserted. So we have two drop down lists to select the from currency and the to currency. And I'm selecting EUR and hitting next. And I'm going back by selecting no, I'm not ready. And I want to select INR. So I'm selecting INR now and hitting next. And this time I'm ready. And so I'm selecting yes and hitting next. So this is making the API call. And this is the converted amount. And finally, when I click the finish button, it will update the converted amount custom field over here. And now I'm clicking the finish. And as you can see, the converted amount custom field has got updated with the new amount, the converted amount in INR format. So yeah, that was the demo. Now let me get back to the presentation. And so I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to all of these people. Last but not the least, the Salesforce OHANA also. And now let us move on to the Q&A.
So Swati, there's one question. Shruti, there's one question. Hello.
Yes. Yes.
Can you open the same flow into the IE11 or some other browser? Is it supporting as of now, or because earlier there were some kind of problems we were facing?
Yes, there are actually as long as Salesforce is supporting, it should support in IE also.
Can you do me a favor to open it in the IE browser?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so yeah, if there would be any known issue, right? So I think it would be on known issue website, and if the Internet Explorer is explicitly supported in the release docs, it should not be having any issue.
Yes. Never used IE recently. So as we can see that Lightning is not supported in IE.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly, yeah.
All right.
So thank you so much, Shruti. I'm really impressed by both of you. One is you, and second is, of course, external services. And I see a few questions coming up. So one question is like, did we created this schema by ourselves? So answer is yes. Like Shruti already explained, that Swagger API is sometimes available by some provider, but sometimes we have to create by our own. And Shruti, if you can, if someone wants explanation, they can either they can review the video back. We will be posting this video, and they can also contact Shruti directly.
Yes.
Awesome. So anyone, any other question?
Um, Shruti, one more question from my side.
Okay.
So, is it means it can be applicable for all the integrations or only for specific integrations only available?
It's actually applicable only for REST for now.
Mhm.
So maybe in the future it will be applicable for everything.
Okay.
And as I had mentioned in my presentation also, there are few limitations as of now.
Okay.
I should say that it's not actually production ready.
Okay.
It's actually a beta version. Yeah.
Okay. And this schema also we can build ourselves or Swagger schema. So we need to customize our according to our requirement, right?
Yes, exactly. You have to. And it ain't tough actually. As you can see, we can build the Swagger schema for any APIs. For the APIs that it doesn't have the Swagger schema, we have to build ourselves. And we
Exactly.
use the Open API specification for this.
Okay.
You can
Okay.
actually visit swagger.io for more details.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions?
Hi, Shruti. Shruti, I would like to know where can I access this video because I missed the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think
So
yes.
let me take that question. So we will be posting the link to this video on social media and our meetup group as well. So you can access it from there.
Sure, sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, Shruti. I have a question. Uh, Hello.
Yes. Please go
Yeah.
ahead.
So, can we call this service from Visual Force component or Visual Force page instead of the flow?
Um, Actually, this when we register for an Apex register for an external service, it actually creates an Apex action, so we can access it in the flow easily.
Okay.
So it's all about doing integrations without any code. So
Okay.
I don't think that we will need to call this from the Visual Force page or component. It's actually for the admins, and through this we are able to make API calls without any code.
Okay.
So you
Thank
can access them in processes, flows, etc.
Yeah. So if you think it like a way that the main motivation of having the external services is like to avoid any coding, to have a point and click. So just like you create your extra Apex method and provide the interface saying that okay, this Apex method would be available in the flow by using the interface. So I think there is a possibility you can access this in either Apex, and I need to check on that. I think it should not restrict you, but to the
Actually, behind the screens, it's creating the Apex class for this, but it's actually not accessible to the end users.
okay, yeah,
It's
okay,
actually, for now, it's concealed, and hence there is no requirement for writing unit test also for this. We can make API calls with absolutely no code.
So I have one question that let's say if we have not properly created our Swagger schema, so then how we can debug this? Like if we are not creating the right structure or somewhere we are like not passing the right parameter, then how we will debug this thing?
If it's actually a proper schema, then it will be available in the flows as the Apex action. Otherwise, it will fail in the wizard itself, and it won't be accessible in the flow also. And you will not be able to create the Apex actions also.
Yeah, so you would be getting an errors actually on the wizard. And
Yes.
most of the time it will say you the line number or something that where it is expecting something else and it found something else.
Okay, that makes sense, I think. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions?
So how this authentication will be happened means backend actually. So is it secure or how it is?
Like I had mentioned, we had named credentials for this, and it supports 3 types, that is anonymous, OAuth, and with the username and password. So the named credentials is something that handles the authentication.
Okay.
Yes.
But in our normal integration also we'll give username and password, right? So here also we are giving the same, right?
Yes, but with this, we do not require any code to do this. Any admins also can go ahead and create a named credential and do it. It's actually a new feature in Salesforce that does this.
Okay, fine.
It handles all the authentication.
Yeah, and as per the best practice as well, if you are using any REST API, so instead of providing any username and password in the REST API, it is always suggested to use the named credential. So that is the other way to see it into.
Yes.
Anyone, any other question? So I think everybody is out of the question. So thank you so much, Shruti. It was fantastic session, and I'm pretty sure everybody learned a lot. I learned a lot in this session, and we would like you to invite you again on the future sessions.
Thanks a
And
lot.
yeah, the last announcement I have here is like we have a event in Hyderabad user group that's on February 20th at 5:30 p.m. And there are few special guests like Tony Profit, which is a chief equity officer of the Salesforce, who would be joining the event. So if you can, I would encourage everybody to join that event. So thank you everyone. Thank you, Shruti. Appreciate your help.
Thanks a
Appreciate
lot
your
for
explanation.
giving me the opportunity.
No problem. You did a great job. Thanks everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Shruti. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Shruti. Yeah.